because we have some interesting reports emanating out of Dallas.
The
latest is that Micah Parsons, he has, quote, worn thin, unquote, in Dallas.
Nonsense.
There is some smoke about Micah Parsons and his attitude and his disposition and him wearing thin on the rest of the team.
Look, I don't buy that. I buy that from fans. I buy it from people in the media who want him to perform at the level we expect him to perform at and kind of keep his lips tight off the field with that podcast, which you've talked about a million times on this show. But it comes from the same place I talked about last week with that silly smoke about Dak Prescott being traded to the Vegas Raiders, right? It's sports talk radio. Having done sports talk radio for the better part of 30 years, let me walk you through what happens in March and April, all right? Gosh darn it, we don't want to talk about the Mavericks again today. we better come up with something. Hey, did you hear that there's some rumors out there that they're going to trade Dak to the Raiders? Oh, no, I didn't hear that. Right. Oh, did you hear that there's some infighting in the locker room, that guys are getting tired of Micah's act? And it's fodder for talk and makes people pick up the phone and dial the phone number. Oh, let's talk to the Musers or what they're called out there in Dallas. But here is the reality. When they played their first game last year and blew the New York Giants out like 90-0, and he looked like, oh my God, this guy's going to, all of a sudden, he's going to be the guy, and we're comparing him to Lawrence Taylor, God forbid, right? And then we never got that production. And there were a lot of games this past year where if you look at the stat sheet, he had zeros across the board, right? Now, look, you have to account for him. There are times that pressures are as good as actual tackles and sacks and all that. I get that. But he has not essentially lived up to his own billing. And when you're a guy that has not lived up to the hype every single weekend when other guys do, and oh, by the way, you run to a podcast to talk about everyone other than yourself and where they don't do well and what you need to make that defense better, at some point, someone raises their hand and goes, well, what have you done? Right? Where are your accomplishments? Where are your playoff wins? Where's your big sack on 3rd and goal to make sure we win a game? And that's what happens. And that's the other side of the coin that players typically don't like. You only want to get one side of the coin, where I go on my own podcast, everyone loves me. I go on appearances at JCPenney, and there's a line out the door, assuming that store still exists. JCPenney? That's where I shopped growing up. You can get a car battery and a pair of jeans. It was great for us. But you follow me. It's like no one thinks of the other side of the coin. And we live in a world now where haters have a voice. And that's what you're seeing now with this type of smoke in Dallas.
Yeah, I don't know. I think from the production standpoint, I think he's been money good. 2-time All-Pro. He has 40 tackles and 40 sacks in the last 3 years. On top of that, I think what's interesting about this situation right now, we know one thing that Jerry Jones is doing. He's closed the checkbook, right? And especially when it comes to Dak's situation, he has told Dak, you're going to play out your 5th year. And I think he's also sending another message to Micah. You want the deal? Give me a win. Give me a significant win that's going to get us into the playoffs or win a playoff game. But to fast forward, man, I think Micah right now is in a situation where he has to just become the face of this team, right? Like he has to do something or become something next season.
But I want to stop you there if I can, because I want to back up what you said just 2 seconds, because I think that's the bigger point. It's the Jerry Jones point. Like right now, Dak Prescott, unless something crazy happens in the next month or two, is going to play on what makes him a lame duck quarterback on that final deal and make the, I know it's against the cap at $60 million. He doesn't get 60, but I don't get in the weeds on that. But the fact that they haven't signed CeeDee Lamb, who's going to the final year of his contract, and you've got one kind of wiggle room year with Mike. You don't have to sign him until this time next year, but you now know where Jerry Jones stands on things, and that is, I'm not writing the super duper big check for $100+ million until I get something out of it, right? And right now, for 28 years, the Dallas Cowboys, who have spent a lot of money over the 28 years and don't have a single Super Bowl appearance to show for it, he's now saying at 80 whatever years old, you know what? We're going to play the game the other way. You can earn it, and I'm happy to write the check when you earn it, but I'm not going to give it to you till you earn it. Now, the only guy where that doesn't hold water on right now for me, it's not Mike, it's not Dak, it's CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb has earned it. CeeDee Lamb has been a top 5 wide receiver since he came into the league and had another great year last year. So I understand the Micah thing because you've got another year to kick it down the lane.
Well, you have to say he's earned it too, though.
But you have a year to kick it down the lane. Okay. So it's like Mike is out there saying, I want to get paid now. Right. He would get paid a year from now. So he's even an outlier in this. The Dak thing, look, Dak's made $150 million with the Dallas Cowboys, and he's a $60 million cap hit right now, right? The one guy that doesn't make sense to me is CeeDee Lamb, because he has done everything you'd want a rock star wide receiver to do. And the fact that that deal hasn't gotten done, that brings me back to your original point, which is a good one. The checkbook's closed.
Yeah, it's done.
Checkbook's closed.
Mm-hmm. If they beat the Packers, none of this happens. We don't hear about Micah Parsons and wearing thin. If they beat the Packers, if they go to San Francisco and lose San Francisco, fine. But winning fixes everything, and losing causes problems. And that's why we're hearing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of truth to that, too. I think Jerry Jones has gotten to a point, and it's not like I've spoken to him about it, but it seems pretty obvious, where I've spent a lot of money on these players. All right, and now I've not been super active with free agents historically, but I've spent a lot of money on our guys. I'm good to our guys, and there's not a former Cowboy who would ever say anything against that, right? But I'm not writing big guaranteed checks anymore. Now you got to earn it.
He wants the financial flexibility with this team, and if he wants to be competitive and he wants to stay in the kind of the upper echelon of the Niners and Detroit and Packers, he's going to have to build his team up, but he can't do it with a salary cap that's jammed up.
Hey there, thank you so much for watching The Carton Show. You can subscribe right here to get all the latest bits and segments from the show. And by the way, while you're at it, we have a lot of great shows on FS1, so check them out too.